Hey friends, have you ever made whole food plant-based chips? No? Meet me down at the kitchen and make a huge pile of them. Really crunchy. Super good. It's gonna be good with our nachos. Another feature of these chips, they are no fat and very little salt. They don't trigger us to have an addictive response. So I'm gonna put a couple of resources into the comments below and you will understand the danger of addictive food. When we look at chips, usually super high fat, they're high salt, sometimes they're really high seasoned, sometimes they have a little bit of color on them. So those are the things that trigger us to addictively eat them, and it is not your fault. It's not my fault. We can literally snorkel down large amounts of calories, chips, if it triggers that addictive response. So by reading a little bit about the psychology, why we like high fat, high salt, highly processed foods, you will start to understand it. It's not willpower, you're not weak. It's just the way that we as humans are wired. If you're watching this, you're like me. And I suppose there could be some bots watching this, some non-human people, but hey, if you're human, then these are a great way to go because they're not gonna get you in trouble, and we want to stay out of trouble. Let's get started with the easiest recipe ever. So the first thing that we want to do is add some moisture. And what that does is it lets the seasoning stick to the chips. So you can use any spray bottle. I'm using a pressurized bottle here. And then you can do some pre-flavored seasonings. Like I've got some amino acids there. You can also just use water. That's totally fine. And then that allows, some non-salt seasonings to stick, like cumin, some different things like that. I'm going to use a little bit of amino acids and I'm going to put some water in there. And then that'll just give us a nice coating on the chips before they go into the oven. Now we're going to cut them. I'm going to cut them classically into triangles, but you can do, thin tortilla strips. You can do thicker strips, whatever you want for creativity. Now go ahead and set your oven to 250 degrees because that is the temperature that I played with a lot, and it's better to cook them low and slow for a longer period of time. Then that way there's no risk of them getting brown or burnt because these are no fat chips. So set your oven to 250 and let's continue on. Just lay those out on the cookie sheets, give them plenty of room to breathe so the air can circulate around them as much as possible. Give them a light spray of our moisture, and then if you've got pre-seasoned, no need to add any other spice, but if you want to add spice, which I always do, you can use almost anything that you want. So cumin, salt and pepper, you can use harissa, you can use powdered onion and garlic. And another note on doing our chips low and slow in the oven is those spices won't burn. A lot of times the fragile spices will burn, so you don't have to worry about that. Use whatever you want. Go ahead and put your feet up. Those chips are just going to hang out in the oven. We're just getting the moisture and crisping them up. So in the meantime, I want to take a quick look at another way to visualize this. So if we buy chips, the average serving of chips has about 7 grams of fat or oil in our typical tortilla chips. That serving is about 1 cup. 1 cup of chips is about 14 chips. I don't know anyone who stops at 13 and a half chips. So let's just say we're going to have 2 servings. That's 28 chips. That is 1 tablespoon of fat or oil. Here's where it starts to make sense. So follow me. 1 tablespoon of oil is 120 calories. Then what happens is we enjoy a burrito bowl or some chips 3 times a week. That's 360 calories a week, 18,000 calories a year. By going fat-free with these chips, you lose over 5 pounds a year. You're welcome. Oh yeah, here they are. Just make sure they're all loose because you want the air to circulate. But take a look at them. They're really crispy. And as you can see, some are, like I I didn't do both sides of them because I didn't want that much seasoning and salt. I just kind of want these to be on the plainer side. This one is a little more seasoned. I'm gonna bring this close to you so you can see what that looks like. See how it's kind of separated there? They're just, I would say that these chips have a lot of character, let's call it that. Basically all the moisture just leaves them. The edges start getting crispy when they're in that baking process. I wouldn't even call it baking. We're just getting the moisture out. But the middles are kind of gummy, and the longer they hang out in the oven and then they start to cool, then they crisp up. So you want to make sure while they're in the oven that they have, none of them have any moist gummy parts in the middle. You just want to make sure they're crispy. So let's try one of these chips. Let's see how crunchy it is. Yeah. We've got a whole batch of them now. I do these chips about once a week, and then, you know, let me get my little treasure chest of vegetables here. So garlic, tomato, I have a avocado. Hey, this is almost some guacamole. Hummus, soups, like if it's maybe a Mexican themed soup, any kind of tortilla soup. Nachos are extremely good. The cheese sauce, black beans, jalapenos, you get the idea. So these chips are just really nice to have on hand. Whole food, plant-based chips, that's your deal right there.